It's been a long winter, but finally, after a whole lot of snow and a very annoying amount of rain, Laker Connections is back for spring 2023. Hello, friends. I'm Jared Wakefield, and I'm joined by our compatriot sportsman, Thomas Turgeon. And Thomas, it's been a pretty busy winter. A lot of chaos going on, especially this weekend.
It absolutely has, and I'm ready to go. Let's do it. Season 19. Woo! All right, let's go.
All right, let's go. So before we look out our windshield towards what we got coming up down the road, winter sports are halfway down and halfway home as the Oswego State women's basketball and hockey programs have already concluded their season. Thomas, let's go to the Zeal first, where women's basketball made some big progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And we start things off at Mac Zeal, where the women's basketball season wrapped up early in February. Clearly a season of ups and downs, from winning streaks to losing streaks, but it ended very nicely with a win over Fredonia to wrap up their season. Jared, this team, we talk about maturity, and I really think that they're going in the right direction, although at the end of the season, a losing streak for quite some time, 5 games, it definitely bit them in the behind a little bit.
Yeah, I think the big thing that really hurt them there is they ran into the injury bug. And boy, when I say they caught the injury bug, they caught a very violent strain of the injury bug because it bit them pretty hard like a very gnarly mosquito. But look, you have to look at the positives. They've doubled their overall win total. They got over 10 wins this year overall, finished close to 500. 6 conference wins. Last year they had 2, and they had to fight and claw for those 2. So it's a program heading in the right direction. Sean Pinkerton had a lot of momentum, a lot of energy in the first half of the season, and getting that winning season under your belt, getting nice and close to that 500 mark, it'll help him recruiting. And obviously, with the turnaround of this team, Thomas, I think he did a pretty good job recruiting, and we'll see what happens next year.
Absolutely, and really, they're going to have to get things back on track. Diamond Pickett didn't really play a lot of the year, but she got an average 13 points in those 10 games, so she's really going to be a staple going into this team moving forward.
Diamond Pickett going to be the shining star of that women's basketball team for years to come, but Oswego women's hockey skated their way to another winning season in 2022 and 2023. The Lakers finished 14-11-1 overall, 11-6-1 in conference in the Newell. The Lakers found a lot of success in the Newell, finishing 3rd in the regular season and losing a thrilling, and I mean a thrilling, double overtime semifinal to Cortland by a final score of 2-1. Overall, the Lakers struggled against their major ranked matchups. They dropped a pair of games to the ranked Adrian Bulldogs squad, with other ranked losses coming against Utica and the top-ranked Amherst Mammoths. The Lakers' only ranked win of the year came against Hamilton down near Utica way. Despite these losses, Thomas, it was another solid year of development from the women's hockey program. Still a relatively new program. Some impressive showings from the new additions in the fall that really punctuated the season.
Absolutely, and you look at this team overall, definitely a growth season for the Oswego State women's hockey program. Only year 2 with Mark Digby at the helm for the men's hockey team, or women's hockey team, but you have a lot of people going and leaving, which is going to leave a big dent in Mark Digby's recruiting class this year, which is going to be huge. But you talk about Ashlyn McGrath had a fantastic year leading the team in goal scoring. Simone Bednarik going away for the Empire State Games, but then coming back and still doing her thing, putting the puck in the back of the net. This team has gotten a lot really to take away moving forward. Lexi Levy, another bright spot for this team, has definitely solved the question mark in between the pipes.
Yeah, absolutely. It would definitely be interesting to say that Levy definitely helped the Lakers some big wins, and we'll talk about a little later what we can look forward to. But that'll do it, looking back on some winter sports here so far.
Absolutely, and you look at both of these teams, really, they have a lot of positives to take away from this season, moving forward, moving into next season. The women's hockey team, a little more on the positive, but I think at the end of the day, you look at that matchup against Cortland, which we'll touch up on later. They were the road team in that matchup, and I think the big matchups that really impacted how they did was against Potsdam and Canton. Those 2 losses definitely stung them just a tiny bit. But
yeah, you definitely wonder how it might have been different with home games. But obviously, we saw it last year, a very similar ending. This one a bit more high scoring, but Cortland on top again, and that ended their season.
Absolutely. But when we come back, the NCAA tournament is coming to Max Zeal, and we will break down each team coming to the Port City. All here on WCOP 10.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Shine on that boy.
Look at the bling. Do we got a diamond tester on?
Yeah, that's getting bad. Yep. 10 out of 10 recommend on Yelp.
We scored?
Yeah, we scored going to the playoffs.
I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone.
What? I should take your phone away.
No. I'll call for a ride.
Wait, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine.
Kevin, I need that back.
No.
Kevin!
Welcome back to Laker Connections here right on WTOP 10. Jared Wakefield and Thomas Turgeon. And Thomas, big weekend here in Oswego, NCAA men's tournament. Little pod coming to town.
A little pod coming to town for the first time in quite a while, Jared. And like we mentioned, the men's team is hosting the pod here right in the NCAA tournament, right across the road at Max Zeal. Let's break down who is going to be battling here at the Zeal on Friday in the early game. Jared, take it away.
Let's take a look at the first team here, and one of the teams that's going to be making their way up to the shores of Lake Ontario this week are the John Carroll Blue Streak. John Carroll enters the tournament 22-4 on the season, earning one of 20 at-large bids after losing to Marietta in the Ohio Athletic Conference semifinal. John Carroll has lost 2 of their last 3 games, including a loss to Baldwin Wallace right before that loss in the OAC tournament. They're a high-scoring unit, averaging about 82 points per game. They are also a top 40 team in the nation in free throw shooting and field goal shooting. So, Thomas, the Blue Streaks are hoping to get hot in Max Zeal this weekend, but they're going to need to find space inside the arc if they want to find their way to victory real good close to the paint.
It's going to be a good test for the Blue Streaks, 22-4 on the season, but I'm looking overall at Luke Frazier and Luke Chacon, the Luke combo, if you will. Both of these individuals averaging roughly around the mid-teens mark in points, but other than that, you have Chase Toppin at 10.6 on the average, the rest of them in the single digits. So it's looking like you shut down those 3, or really those top 2, and you're able to quiet down that John Carroll offense, even though you look at 82.2 points per game, and they're winning by over 10 points. So you look at this team, they've done very well this season, but they're going to have a tough test. No one just gets in for free in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. Carroll, one of the favorites coming in. They've had a strong year, and I wanted to go in deeper on both of those Lukes. From the same hometown, Mentor, Ohio. Luke Frazier, a 6'6" guard, sophomore. Both young players, both sophomores. Luke Chacon, 5.10 point guard, and they both had good seasons. Chacon, over 100 boards so far this year, 127 assists so far this year. So he's making some good plays, and Frazier, big man, able to hang out right below the hoop, doing very well so far this year. 84.7 from the charity stripe, so he's done very well so far this year.
Absolutely, and you look at this team, they lose to Marietta, ironically enough, a team that beat Oswego last year and didn't even make the NCAA tournament this year. So they're definitely going to have to move to a bigger potential for the Blue Streaks as we continue to see their opponent in the Albertus Magnus Falcons, hauling from New Haven, Connecticut, has had a season their best since the pandemic and look to play spoiler against the John Carroll team who has had a fantastic year. Jared, the Falcons come into the Port City averaging over 80 points a game and is clearly a reason to go into this game a little concerned if you are John Carroll, putting up roughly around the same amount of points that those Blue Streaks have been able to this season.
Yeah, Albertus Magnus, absolutely a dangerous team. According to the most recent statistics on the NCAA website, they are number 3 in the nation off the glass. They are insanely good at getting rebounds, 46.4 rebounds so far through this year. So that has made them dangerous, and they've been real good at getting those offensive rebounds. They're good at getting second chance opportunities right below the net and taking advantage when other teams get a little lackadaisical on the defense, averaging about 82 points per game. Little bit of a switch around from the John Carroll team where the old guard's leading the way here. Justice Washington, he is a senior, 62 from the field, 10.6 rebounds per game, about 11 points per game. And then graduate student Terry Dawkins, he is 58% from the field, 8.2 boards, but a bit more high scoring, about 18 from every game.
And absolutely, you look at this team, only 3 losses in 2023, two of them being to the number 1 team being St. Joseph's and the other one being to Regis, but they did beat St. Joseph's in their conference tournament 83-79. So you look at this team, they're definitely trending in the right direction. They're upsetting the number 1 seed, a team who has been really dominant as of late.
Falcons will look to fly their way into a spoiler role this week. But we'll move our way on to the late matchup on Friday night. The first team up is Marymount. The Marymount University Saints will face off against the hosting Oswego State squad. Marymount Saints with 17-10 overall, but had a strong 10-2 record in the Atlantic East Conference regular season. Saints had a heavenly end of the season, winning their last 4 games on the way to the Atlantic East Conference Championship. On their way to that title, they put themselves 13th in the nation from the 3-point line. Thomas, Marymount is one of the strongest shooting programs and look to assert their divine right to rule this pod with a pair of wins this weekend.
Absolutely, and you have this team that only averages roughly around 72 points per game, a little bit less compared to their other opponents in John Carroll, Albertus Magnus, and Oswego State. But on the other hand, you look at their matchups across the season, there wasn't really a blowout game in their conference, Jared, as you mentioned. I mean, you look at their one loss most recently to Newman by 1 point. They ended up playing Newman in the conference championship and only winning by 5. So you're not really seeing a team where they've been able to run away with things, and it's their first ever conference title. They're a competitive squad, but overall you have number 13 in 3-point percentage in the country, so it's going to be a good team from outside the arc. But I'm curious to see what this team brings. We haven't really heard much about them. They're clearly a consistent team. They look like a scrappy team going into Max Zeal on Friday.
That they absolutely do, and I mean, there's a bunch of things to look at. Marcus Stubbs, who we saw on there, DMV local to that area from Marymount, down near the nation's capital, 16.9 points per game, 108 boards, and 92% from the charity stripe, and being automatic there is going to be really huge. You know, Oswego, they've gotten into a bit of foul trouble on occasion this year, and if they can take advantage from there, the Saints may be well on their way to making their way onto Saturday in the tournament.
One of the things that Oswego really hasn't done too well this year has been from 3-point range, so we'll definitely see how that trends into tomorrow night. But we'll move on to the final team, being the host, the Oswego State Lakers welcome the NCAA tournament to Max Zeal for the first time since 2019. Oswego is coming off their 6th SUNYAC championship in the Jason Leone era, as well as the first time going back-to-back as they are on a 21-game winning streak, which is the highest in program history. Jared, the Lakers will be a tough out going into this weekend on their own court, which they haven't lost many games here at the Zeal over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of D3 Hoops Twitter, you know, liking Oswego's chances to go pretty deep in this tournament. A few odds makers on Twitter put Oswego at about a 14% chance in this corner of the bracket to make it to the Final Four. So a lot of pundits in the D3 Hoops community thinking this team's going to go very far. And Jeremiah Sparks, I mean, we all kind of expected Jeremiah Sparks to lead the way as well as Devin Green. I think the story this year in ways has been Cartier Bowman. You know, they've been looking for a bit of help right below the net. It seems like it might have been one of the things missing last year, and Bowman's been very good at getting those second chance opportunities, and it's shown the transfer from St. Rose spectacular this year.
And on the other hand, you look at a guy like Aki Anderson, who has been with the program. He was really the shining star going into that final matchup against Brockport. It seemed like every shot that was taken that went and cashed in net was Aki Anderson. So we'll see how the Lakers move forward going into tomorrow night into their first matchup in the NCAA tournament. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's the Wheelhouse Wire coming up next right on WTOP 10.
Say, President Stanley, whenever there's bad weather, who would you turn to?
I'd turn to Storm Team 10.
No, but you've got to say it like this. Storm Team 10. Say it with me. Storm Team 10.
Roll it.
Jill
Should
told
we
me it
tell
was
him?
Kitty from Glee. Yeah, what is it?
Al Roker.
Welcome back to Laker Connections right here in the WTOP 10 studios, just down the hall from the Deborah F. Stanley Ice Arena and Convocation Hall in Thomas. It's time to head on down to what we used to call the Wheelhouse. Now it's more the Deb, but the Wheelhouse Wire back for 2023.
Absolutely it is, and it was rocking as of last weekend. And, well, Jared, the Lakers took care of business in the semifinal against Buffalo State, and overall a team effort was at hand for Ed Gosick and company. They got the job done. Your thoughts on the Wheelhouse last weekend against the Bengals?
Yeah, watching that one from the press box, at first I was a bit concerned, just from a crowd perspective. You want it to be packed. It was a bit thin going in. But at some point, like 5 minutes in the first period, all of a sudden the switch flipped and there was a sea of gold out there, and the Gold Rush promotion worked very well as the Oswego's got on the board back-to-back right away. Whole lot of gold pom-poms and foo-foos in the air. And Oswego, a very dominant win, getting that 3-goal lead. Buffalo State starts to crawl back, a real early goalie hook, and then Tommy Cahill seals the deal for Oswego State, and they move right past the Buffalo State team that was looking to play spoiler.
Absolutely, and Alex DiCarlo continuing his point streak. Cal Shell getting his first playoff win at home. They'll be at home this weekend against Plattsburgh, but overall, a good win for Oswego State.
And with that win over Buffalo State, well, Thomas, the SUNYAC Championship Final is here for the Oswego State Lakers. While the Lakers beat Buffalo State last Saturday, Plattsburgh knocked the Geneseo Ice Knights off their 4-year ice horse to advance to the final. It's the matchup Laker fans have been excited for all season long. Oswego is 2-1 on the season against Plattsburgh, winning at home 5-1, winning the Plattsburgh tournament 2-1, and losing the conference game 6-1. Thomas, this game is so hyped that fans of both programs effectively shut down the Oswego State box office until earlier today.
It's been ridiculous. First off, I hate technology. Secondly, this is a game where I can't expect anything. The two games that mattered the most this year for conference play have been blowouts. Oswego got the better hand of Kyle Alaverdi early in November, but on the other hand, you go back to late January, it was Eli Schiller stealing the show with 43 saves for Plattsburgh, and he's been a stud and the rookie goaltender of the year for the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's been a pair of freshman goaltenders that have just been outrageous this year.
And it's really been all goaltending. But either way, the Oswego State women's hockey team would be dealt the same fate just a year later and at a different venue. However, an extra time loss to Cortland in a low-scoring affair did not change. Jared, their season comes to an end, and this game clearly showed a lot of adversity, and we mentioned a lot of takeaways going into next season.
Yeah, the Lakers, they were on their heels right from the get-go. Cortland got up nice and early. The Lakers didn't have an answer until real late in the third period, and they were able to get one past Molly Gorgon, which is better than they did last year, so they forced overtime, but one overtime period was not enough. 20 minutes of bonus hockey, not enough for the Cortland Red Dragon fans. They go to a double overtime, and boy, oh boy, we talked about Lexi Levy. When you make over 60 saves, the goaltending's not the problem, and Lexi Levy, a fantastic performance, multiple chances for Cortland where they probably should have put a puck in the net. Oswego a little sloppy with penalties that ended up costing them.
Absolutely, and she had now the second most saves in an individual game for the program, so she's done very well. But they have a lot of takeaways to move forward going into 2023.
Well, Thomas, let's go ahead and let's step into Mark Digby's shoes for a second here and take a look at this women's hockey squad for next year. Thomas, this team clearly has found a goaltender in Lexi Levy. I don't think we need to talk much about that. However, the team's lineup was already missing some goal scoring this year. Some of the team's best scorers are part of this year's senior class, including Newell first-teamer Amanda Zenstein off the blue line. How do you set the table for a Newell chip run next fall?
He's definitely going to have a big recruiting summer and a little bit on an early fall. As you take a look at the current seniors, Ariella Haas on that all-Newell team. Morgan Shines has had a very good 4 years here. Kylie Grugan in a leadership role. Taylor Hudon in a leadership role. Mia Comboy in that same group. And you mentioned Amanda Zenstein, who's been very sound on the defensive end with her defensive partner, Avery Webster. So there's a lot of shoes to fill for this team, and I'm not sure where you really start on.
Yeah, I mean, arguably Oswego loses their best top goal scorer in Ariella Haas, and they lose basically a third line in Hudon, Grugan, and Shine, some grit with some offensive help, and they need to find 2 top 4 defensemen to fill that void. But that'll do it for the serious part of this show. When we come back, Thomas and I head to the face-off circle for the first Lakers showdown of 2023. And the man himself, Thomas Talarino, joins us right here in the middle of the desk. Can't Miss Television is coming up next right here on WTOP 10.
Welcome back to Major Discussions.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Hey there, I'm Al Roker, class of 76. Yes, way back in 76. Back when the earth was cooling. You're watching WTOP.
Hey, how are ya? Welcome back to Laker Connections. I'm Tommy Talarino, and it's time for Laker Showdown. For Laker Showdown, these two guys, I'll leave it at that, will answer my questions about Laker sports. Starting out our showdown in Maxfield with some men's basketball. The Lakers have had an amazing season and are hosting a pod for the Round of 64 tournament this year. We saw this past weekend the team not play their best in the SUNYAC playoffs, which has led to some questions on how far they can go in the tournament. Gentlemen, what do the Lakers have to do to fix their problems from the SUNYAC playoffs? I usually have you start off. I'm going to have Jared start off.
Thank you very much, Tommy. And, you know, when you look at the Lakers' stats compared on the national level, they have a really good assist-to-turnover ratio, but that doesn't matter when you keep turning the ball over. So while they convert on turnovers that the other team gives them, they make a lot of turnovers. And that's, you know, this team's aggressive and fast, and that's part of their success, but it's also their downfall when they get a bit too careless and try to force balls to the rim. So I really think they've just got to limit those turnovers, you know, keep the ball nice and close to them, really have good protection, and make nice, quick, but intelligent plays.
All right, what do you got, Serge?
That's a really good one. I'm overall going to go with defensive chemistry on the back end, and Coach Leone really hammered this home. And he just basically said, I don't know what's going on with our defense, but it's not good. Apparently, it's not good at all. And he goes, I've never seen it this bad. I think it obviously starts off with that because you have many teams coming in, 2 out of the 4 that are averaging over 80 points a game. So it's going to be the defensive end for the Oswego State Lakers if they want to make it out of this pod.
You guys both made some really great points. One thing I always look at for winning March Madness in college basketball, what's the free throw percentage? What's the possessions looking like? And how good's the defense? And defense wins championships, Jared. They say that all the time in basketball. Number 1 on the board right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
That's fair.
Yeah. But it was close.
It was almost too serious. Like we made good points. Like we didn't throw shoes.
Someone decided to make things not serious.
Over on the ice now, the men's hockey team is hosting Plattsburgh in the SUNYAC Finals this Saturday for a whiteout rematch.
What?
We have seen these teams face off 3 times this year with a different type of game each time. Oswego winning big and close, while the Cardinals winning big as well. With the season on the line for both teams, what are some of the X factors for winning this game for both sides? I'll have Turd start this one out. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to throw a little curveball in this one. I'm going to go with the penalty kill and the power play as really a two-wing combo. Oswego, one of the better power plays as of late. They need to continue that. You mentioned they've being able to capitalize against that Plattsburgh penalty kill, who really hasn't been that good. On the other hand, Plattsburgh power play hasn't been so good by Oswego. You can't let that up. I know we say goaltending a lot, but overall it's going to go down to the special teams, and Coach Gosick even said himself where as long as their percentage is better than the others, the odds of them being successful are pretty good.
All I'm going to say, Thomas, is that I do think that special teams is going to matter, but in the last game, Plattsburgh found their offensive success on even strength. So I think the key thing here is going to be getting your defensemen to join the rush. And that was how Oswego found success against Plattsburgh in whiteout. There was a Ryan Dickinson trailer bury goal. Connor Sleep takes a shot, short side rebound comes out, and Dickinson's right there to bury it on a good read on a good turnover forced by Sleep as Plattsburgh tried to set up in the zone. It's going to be on the defense joining the rush, but responsibly, because if they don't do it responsibly, you get those breakaway chances like we saw here for whiteout.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good. The
recipe.
That's a
hard
big
L.
old Fortnite L for
That's
you.
a big old L.
You made great points.
You made a good one.
Defense wins championships.
Yeah.
We've been talking about
but
power
goals
play
win games.
They do.
It could be both. You never know.
It is.
I'm scared for this last
boy.
one. I'm not going to lie.
For our last question, we're going to keep it lighthearted. For those of you who don't know, these two studs are also part-time goalies for intramural sports in floor hockey and broom ball. Which got me thinking. If you guys were both goalies for Saturday's games, who do you think would allow more goals, and what's the number of goals? If you say anything less than 5, there's a problem.
All right, I'm gonna say this. My broom ball career went very well. My save percentage was right around like 750, 800, which is not completely terrible. For hockey, my save percentage is more like 500, but I think I'm gonna allow less goals. And the reason is that if you've ever played defense as a skater for Thomas, you know that you hate your goalie by the end of the game. Because you get anywhere near the net, try to help your goalie out, clear the ball out, clear the puck out. He'll just scream at you and yell at you like, get out of the way, I can't see. Okay, I'll just let him shoot and score on you because your glove's going to be slow.
You're making it sound like you're a blind man on a boat. I can't see.
No,
you're going to fall overboard.
Yeah, that's you.
No, if
you can't see the shot, you fall over. No. First off, it'll be me because one, I actually played goalie, maybe not too well, but a little bit better. And I'm still better.
Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. But either way, it's me. Overall goals, I say maybe about 8 or 9, give or take. But that'll be about 8 or 9 less than what Jared's going to allow. So I'm going to go with that.
And for the record, I'll put myself at about 9 goals let in. I'm probably like 20 shots.
Okay, 20 shots. That's it.
That's like almost a 50% save
it's
percentage.
I was going to say,
be running that hard.
said that he had a 50% save percentage in floor hockey. This man, 5-on-4 the whole game, only let in about 2 goals.
Woo!
You're winner! The reigning defending champion, Thomas Bubba Turgeon.
Let's go!
So we're going to forget broom ball where we were on a 3-man penalty kill.
Listen. The first game in broom ball, he let up 9 goals. Everyone else was running on ice in shoes, and you couldn't slide left or right for us.
And
I don't want to hear it, Jared.
And I almost lost a playoff game.
I don't want to hear it,
The regular season doesn't matter.
Although Jared can't slide left
matter.
or right, we're going to slide it to a break, and when we come back, we won't. So we'll see you next week right here on Laker Connections.